I think we've all been there. You're looking at a list of solar panels, and your head just starts to spin. The brands all sound a little different, the prices are all over the map, but they're all promising you the exact same thing, this idea of energy independence. So what's the real story behind the panel? We're going to get into that, because truly understanding where your panels come from, well, that's the real key to energy security. And our story, it doesn't start in some high-tech lab or a boardroom. It starts in a place I think a lot of us can picture. Imagine this with me. It's late afternoon, the light is just hitting the side of an old barn. And my friend Peter, he's standing there holding this stack of spec sheets, and he just looks, well, he looks confused. And that moment, that scene, it really gets to the very heart of this whole thing. So this is what he asks me, and I bet this sounds familiar to you, right? You've got one panel that claims it's German, another one says Canadian, another one Chinese. They look pretty much identical, but the price tags are from different planets. It's that exact confusion that we are going to clear up, right here, right now. Because see, Peter's question, it wasn't really just about which product to buy. It was a doorway. It was an entry point into this massive, unfolding global story that's all about economics, politics, and a fundamental change in how our world makes and uses power. So let's start with that big story, the great global shift. Seriously, if you can get your head around how solar manufacturing journeyed from these meticulous European workshops to the massive mega factories in Asia, you'll understand everything about the panels that you see for sale today. If you rewind to the early 2000s, Europe was the undisputed king, especially Germany. You had brands like SolarWorld and Q-Cells, and they were building panels that were like industrial machinery, just built to last for 30, 40 years. But then everything changed. China made a generational bet, pouring an unbelievable amount of money and resources into building entire cities dedicated to solar manufacturing. And by the mid-2010s, the game was over. China's incredible scale just meant they could produce panels so much cheaper, and the center of the solar universe decisively shifted east. And this really boils down to two totally different philosophies. The European model was all about precision craftsmanship, premium service, but that came with really high labor and energy costs. The Chinese model, on the other hand, was focused on one thing and one thing only: massive, unbelievable scale. With lower industrial power costs and incredible factory efficiency, they were able to build panels that made solar affordable for millions of people, not just a luxury for a few. Now, this massive shift created something that you absolutely need to understand. It's called white labeling. It's pretty simple. It's where a company puts its brand name on a product that was actually made in somebody else's factory. So for example, AEG, that's a classic German engineering name, right? Well, they now put their name on panels made in China. Or take Canadian Solar. Despite the name, it's a Chinese company, and most of its manufacturing happens in Asia. The big takeaway here, that brand on the sticker doesn't always tell you where the panel was actually born. Okay, so if most of these panels are coming from Asia, why are the prices and the quality all over the place? What's going on there? Let's decode the costs, because I promise you, not all panels are created equal. There are really four big things that drive the price. Sure, labor and energy costs are higher in the West, but the two absolute game changers for China are scale and something called vertical integration. I mean, think about it. When you're making 20 million panels a year instead of 20,000, your cost for each one just plummets. And when you control the entire supply chain from start to finish, well, that's an economic advantage that's pretty much unbeatable. And this is what we mean by vertical integration. It's incredible, really. The big Chinese manufacturing giants control every single step. They're involved from digging the raw quartz out of the ground, to refining it into super pure silicon, to slicing that into wafers, making the cells, and finally assembling the panel. It's this total control from the mine to the module that lets them manage costs so effectively. But listen, this is probably the single most important thing to get your head around when it comes to quality. The phrase made in China is not one thing. It's not a monolith. You have these world-class top-tier manufacturers like LONGi, Trina, and Jinko. Their panels are what power massive utility projects all over the world. They use the best materials, have proven reliability. But on the other end of the spectrum, you have low-cost producers who cut corners everywhere. Cheaper materials, flimsy frames, sloppy construction, and that leads to a much higher risk of failure down the road. And this brings us right to a core philosophy we have here. When you're looking at that whole spectrum of quality, the temptation to just grab the cheapest panel is really strong. I get it, but it's a huge gamble. Saving €50 today can, and often does, cost you thousands later in lost power and having to replace the whole thing. quality isn't an expense, it's an investment in your own resilience. All right, let's talk about the elephant in the room. You've probably seen the headlines about hidden kill switches and things like that. This whole topic needs clarity, not fear. We have to separate the conspiracy theories from the real, practical conversation we need to have about control. So let's just ask the question straight up, the one that I know is on a lot of people's minds. Can someone, somewhere, remotely shut off your solar panels? Is there some kind of secret switch buried inside that can just turn off your power? And the answer for the solar panels themselves is a hard, emphatic no. A solar panel is a beautifully simple thing. It's basically glass, silicon, and a metal frame. Think of it like a rock that we taught how to make electricity. There are no microchips, there is no software, there's no way to connect to it remotely. It is a passive device. You simply cannot hack it or control it, period. Now, the real concern isn't the panels, it's the inverter. The inverter is the brain of your whole system, and yes, it's true, security researchers have found some imported inverters that had undocumented chips that could theoretically allow for remote access. Now, if you're managing a national power grid, that's a huge security risk. But for us, for the off-grid user, the solution is incredibly simple and powerful. Just keep your system offline. Use local monitoring, not some cloud service. That simple act puts you, and only you, in control of your power. And that gets to this key idea. True energy independence, it's not some fuzzy feeling you get from having panels on your roof. It's not a slogan you put on a bumper sticker. It is a direct result of how you design and configure your system. It's a choice you make in your wiring. But you know, this whole global story is starting to change a little bit. Peter asked why he's suddenly hearing about American-made panels again. Well, the answer is politics. And that's sparking a real revival of manufacturing right here in the US. This whole revival is really being driven by a political one-two punch. First, you had tariffs on imported panels, and then you have these massive financial incentives from things like the Inflation Reduction Act. It's made it possible for companies like First Solar and Q-Cells USA to build out huge factories at home. And the strategic goal is pretty obvious. Countries want to reduce their dependence on a single foreign supply chain and get some control back over their own critical energy hardware. Okay, so let's tie all of these threads together. What does all this stuff, global economics, factory quality, national security, what does it all mean for you standing there ready to build your own system? Well, it all comes down to a philosophy of independence and good stewardship. Let's be really clear here. China's manufacturing scale is the reason solar is accessible to millions of us today. We have to give credit where it's due. Without that, solar would still be a hobby for the wealthy. But this global dependency we all have, it comes with a responsibility. A responsibility to be wise homeowners and wise stewards of this amazing technology. And this brings us right back to Peter standing by his barn and having that moment of clarity. He finally gets it. The path forward isn't about fear. It's actually very simple. And it comes down to two deliberate choices. Number one, choose good quality equipment. Number two, keep your system offline. That's it. That's the formula for control. And that really is the ultimate message here. When you build your system with those two principles in mind, you're not just making electricity, you are building resilience for your family in an uncertain world. You are building the kind of peace of mind that only comes from true self-reliance. You're building for tomorrow, and you're ensuring that your light remains your own. We'll end with this thought. The prudent see danger and take refuge. Now, this isn't about being fearful or panicking. It's about seeing the world with clear eyes, and it's about taking calm, wise, deliberate steps to prepare and to ensure the well-being of your family. It's not fear, it's wisdom.